The sun had barely cracked the horizon over Da Nang Air Base when Captain James "Jimmy" Hartwell felt the humid Vietnamese air press against his flight suit. It was March 17, 1967, and the morning sky burned orange and purple like a fresh bruise. He stood beside his F-4 Phantom II, running his hand along the cold aluminum skin of the aircraft, feeling every rivet, every panel, as if memorizing it through touch alone. 28 years old. 247 combat missions. A wife back in Texas who hadn't heard his voice in 3 weeks. And today, mission 248. "You ready, Skipper?" Lieutenant Ron DeLuca, his weapons systems officer, appeared from beneath the fuselage with a clipboard and a thermos of coffee that smelled like burnt rubber. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands steady. "Born ready," Jimmy said, though his gut told him otherwise. There was something in the air this morning. Something wrong. The mechanics had been quieter than usual during pre-flight. The chaplain had nodded at him on the way to the flight line, something he'd never done before. The briefing room had been cramped and smoke-filled an hour earlier. Colonel Briggs, a man with a face like weathered granite, had pointed at the map with a wooden pointer that clacked against the acetate overlay. "Target is here, 30 miles west of Hanoi. Railroad bridge. Intelligence says it's heavily defended. AAA concentrations. SAM sites. MiG activity reported in the area." The pointer tapped 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. Like a death sentence being stamped. Jimmy had studied the map, tracing the route with his eyes. 200 miles in. 200 miles out. Through the most dangerous airspace in the world. Through a sky where American pilots were falling at a rate of 1 every 3 days. "Expect heavy resistance," Briggs had said, his voice flat, emotionless. "ROE is weapons-free on target only. Do not, I repeat, do not, engage unless fired upon first." Is that clear? 12 men had nodded in unison. 12 men who knew that at least one of them might not come back. Now, standing beside his Phantom, Jimmy climbed the ladder and settled into the cockpit. The seat was still warm from the sun. He strapped in with practiced efficiency, lap belt, shoulder harness, oxygen mask, helmet. Each click of metal against metal was a small prayer. Each adjustment of a strap was a ritual of preparation. "Check your 6, Skipper," DeLuca's voice crackled in his headset from the rear seat. "Weather's supposed to be clear all the way to the target." "Copy that." Jimmy's hands moved across the instrument panel with the muscle memory of a pianist. Battery on. Hydraulics check. Fuel pumps engaged. The twin General Electric J79 engines whined to life with a sound like a banshee waking from sleep. The tower gave clearance. The runway stretched before him like a gray river leading to the unknown. "Gunfighter 2-1, you are cleared for takeoff." Jimmy pushed the throttles forward. The Phantom shuddered, then roared, then screamed down the runway, eating concrete and spitting heat. At 170 knots, he pulled back on the stick and the world fell away beneath him. They climbed through 10,000 feet. 15,000. 20,000. The South China Sea glittered below like broken glass. Ahead, the mountains of North Vietnam rose like the vertebrae of a sleeping dragon. "Feet dry in 2 minutes," DeLuca called out. "Going into Indian country." Jimmy's jaw tightened. His right hand gripped the stick. His left rested on the throttles. Both feet pressed against the rudder pedals, feeling the aircraft respond to his touch like a living thing. He didn't know it yet, but in less than 40 minutes, only one of those feet would still be working. And it would be the only thing keeping him alive. They crossed into North Vietnamese airspace at exactly 0847 hours, flying at 22,000 feet in a loose combat spread formation. 4 Phantoms. 8 men. 16 eyes scanning a sky that looked deceptively peaceful. Jimmy banked left, following the terrain, watching the green mountains roll beneath him like ocean waves frozen in stone. Rivers snaked through valleys. Villages dotted the landscape like scattered dice. From up here, it looked serene. Beautiful, even. But Jimmy knew better. Sam launch. Sam launch. 3 o'clock. The call came from Gunfighter 2-3, flying 800 yards to the east. Jimmy's head snapped right. 2 white contrails streaked upward from the jungle, climbing fast, trailing smoke and death. SA-2 surface-to-air missiles, Russian-made, radar-guided, and deadly as rattlesnakes. Brake right. Brake right. Jimmy yanked the stick hard, rolled inverted, and pulled. The Phantom groaned under the G-forces. His vision tunneled. Blood pooled in his legs. The altimeter unwound like a broken clock. 20,000, 18, 15, 12. The missiles corkscrewed past, missing by less than 500 feet. One exploded harmlessly at altitude. The other tumbled into the valley below, detonating in an orange-black fireball that sent a plume of smoke skyward. That was close, DeLuca breathed. Too damn close. Stay sharp. There'll be more. Jimmy pulled level at 8,000 feet, scanning the sky, scanning the ground. His heart hammered in his chest. Sweat trickled down his spine despite the cockpit's air conditioning. The target appeared ahead, a steel railroad bridge spanning a river gorge, essential for North Vietnamese supply lines running south. Intelligence photos had shown it clearly. Now Jimmy could see it with his own eyes, a dark line cutting across the landscape. Target visual. 12 o'clock, 5 miles. Copy. Arming weapons. Jimmy flipped the master arm switch. Selected bombs. His finger rested on the pickle button, ready to release the 6 500-pound Mark 82s hanging beneath his wings. 4 miles. 3 miles. Flak. Flak at 11 o'clock. The sky erupted. Black puffs of smoke materialized around them like evil flowers blooming. 37 mm and 57 mm anti-aircraft fire, radar-directed, filling the air with shrapnel. Each explosion was a clap of thunder. Each fragment a potential killer. Jimmy jinked left, then right, never flying straight for more than 2 seconds. The Phantom bucked and shuddered as shock waves slapped against it. 2 miles. Steady, steady. DeLuca's voice was tense but calm. The targeting reticle in Jimmy's heads-up display crept toward the bridge. 1 mile. MiG. 6 o'clock high. The warning came from Gunfighter 2-4, the trailing aircraft. Jimmy's blood turned to ice. A North Vietnamese MiG-17, smaller and more agile than the Phantom, had dropped from the sun and was closing fast. But Jimmy couldn't break off. Not now. Not this close. 30 seconds to release, DeLuca counted. Stay on target. The flak intensified. The entire sky seemed to be exploding. A piece of shrapnel pinged off the canopy, leaving a star-shaped crack in the plexiglass. 20 seconds. Jimmy's world narrowed to the sight picture. The bridge. The reticle. The finger on the button. MiG in firing position. The warning was frantic now. 10 seconds. The Phantom shuddered. Jimmy heard a sound like someone ripping canvas. Tracers, 20 mm cannon rounds, streaked past the canopy in glowing arcs of death. 5, 4, 3, 2. Pickle. 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 Jimmy mashed the button. 6 bombs fell away, tumbling toward the earth. He pulled hard on the stick, banking left, trying to evade both the flak and the MiG. Behind him, the bombs impacted. 2 struck the bridge. 4 missed. Explosions bloomed orange and black. Steel twisted. Concrete crumbled. Good hits. Good hits. Brake left. Brake left. Jimmy rolled the Phantom inverted and pulled, feeling the G-forces crush him into his seat. His vision grayed at the edges. His breathing came in gasps through the oxygen mask. And then he felt it. A massive impact. A tremendous bang that shook the entire aircraft. The canopy exploded inward in a shower of plexiglass. The instrument panel erupted in sparks. Warning lights blazed like Christmas in hell. "We're hit! We're hit!" DeLuca's voice was high-pitched, terrified. Jimmy looked down. His right leg was gone below the knee, not severed, but mangled beyond recognition. Blood sprayed across the rudder pedals. Shrapnel from a 37mm round had torn through the bottom of the fuselage, through the floor, through his leg. He could see bone. He could see meat. He could see things that no man should ever see inside his own body. The pain hit like a train. White-hot. All-consuming. His vision went red at the edges. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." The Phantom yawed hard right, out of control. Without rudder input, the aircraft began to spin. And they were still 190 miles from safety. The Phantom tumbled through the sky like a broken bird. Altitude bled away. 7,000 feet, 6,000, 5. The horizon spun. The earth and sky switched places. Alarms screamed. The master caution panel looked like a pinball machine lit up for tilt. "Eject! Eject! Eject!" DeLuca was screaming from the back seat. "We gotta punch out, skipper." Jimmy's vision tunneled. Gray at the edges. Red at the center. The pain in his right leg was a living thing, clawing at his consciousness, trying to drag him down into darkness. Blood pooled in the cockpit floor. His flight suit was soaked from the thigh down. His right hand fumbled for the ejection handle between his legs. Pull it. Just pull it. Bail out. Parachute. Survival. It was the only logical choice. But then he thought about what ejection meant. Parachuting into North Vietnam. Capture. Torture. The Hanoi Hilton. Years in a cell. Or worse, execution. He'd heard the stories. He'd seen the intelligence reports. American pilots shot while hanging in their parachutes. Bodies never recovered. And DeLuca. Ron. 23 years old. New father. Baby daughter he'd never met. If Jimmy ejected, Ron would have to eject too. Both of them would be captured. Both of them would disappear into the North Vietnamese prison system. "Skipper, we're losing it." Ron's voice cracked with terror. 4,000 feet. Jimmy's left hand gripped the stick. His left foot, the only foot that still worked, pressed against the left rudder pedal. He couldn't feel his right leg anymore. Couldn't move it. Couldn't use it for control. But maybe. Negative, Jimmy gasped. Blood bubbled in his throat. Negative on ejection. "What?" "I'm flying us out." "With what?" "You're bleeding out." "With my left foot." Jimmy's voice was barely a whisper, but it was steel. "I'm flying us out with my left foot." He pushed the left rudder pedal. The Phantom's nose swung left. He centered the stick. Pushed the throttles forward with his left hand. Had to keep the right on the stick. The engines responded. Thrust built. 3,000 feet. He was fighting two battles now. One against the aircraft. One against his own body. The pain was trying to shut him down. Trying to drag him into shock. His hands were shaking. His vision pulsed with his heartbeat. But he'd flown this aircraft for 3 years. 247 missions. He knew every switch, every gauge, every quirk. He knew how she responded. How she flew. "DeLuca," he said through gritted teeth. "Belt. Need a tourniquet." "On it." In the back seat, Ron unbuckled, twisted around, reached forward. His hands found Jimmy's right leg. The mangled mess of flesh and bone. He yanked his own belt free, wrapped it high around Jimmy's thigh, pulled tight. Tighter. Tourniquet tight. Jimmy screamed. The pain exploded. White hot. Blinding. But the blood flow slowed. Got it. I got it. Ron buckled back in. Skipper, we need a heading. Where are we going? Jimmy's eyes found the compass. Spinning. Unreliable. He looked outside. Found the sun. Found his bearing. East, he said. 109er degrees. Da Nang. 190 miles. The Phantom was stable now. Level flight at 2,500 feet, just above the mountains. But flying straight needed constant rudder input. Normally, a pilot would use both feet, making tiny corrections, keeping the aircraft coordinated. Jimmy only had his left foot. Every turn required thought. Planning. He'd push left rudder, bank left with the stick, coordinate the turn. But coming out of the turn was harder. He'd have to release pressure, let the aircraft yaw back, catch it with the stick. It was like trying to write with his non-dominant hand while running a marathon. And he was losing blood. Talk to me, DeLuca. What's our status? Ron's voice shook but held. Hydraulic pressure dropping. Flight controls. We're on the backup system. Fuel's leaking. Looks like we took shrapnel in the right wing tank. I'm showing 11,000 pounds and decreasing. Enough to make Da Nang? If we don't hit any more trouble. If the hydraulics hold. If... Sam launch. Sam launch. 7 o'clock. Another Phantom in the formation called the warning. Jimmy couldn't believe it. Another missile. They were hunting him. A wounded bird. Easy prey. Can't maneuver. Jimmy's voice was fading. Too slow, can't evade. Chaff. Dispensing chaff. Ron punched the button. Clouds of aluminum strips burst from the Phantom, confusing the missile's radar. Jimmy watched the contrail climb. Closer. Closer. His left foot was numb now from pressing so hard on the rudder pedal. His leg cramped. Muscles screaming. The missile passed 500 feet overhead and exploded. The shock wave rocked the Phantom. More warning lights. More alarms. Engine fire. Right engine. Ron's voice pitched up. Shutting it down. The right engine wound down. Power dropped by half. The Phantom yawed hard right. Jimmy pressed the left rudder pedal with everything he had. His entire leg shook. Sweat poured down his face. Come on, baby. He whispered to the aircraft. Stay with me. They crossed the coastline at 1,200 feet, fuel showing 7,000 pounds, hydraulic pressure in the yellow, one engine dead, flight controls barely responding. 120 miles to go. Jimmy's vision was graying. Tunneling. His hands felt distant. Disconnected. Skipper, stay with me. Ron was slapping the back of Jimmy's helmet. Don't you pass out. You hear me? Don't you fucking pass out. Jimmy bit down on his oxygen mask. Tasted blood. His own blood. He'd bitten through his lip and didn't even feel it. 90 miles. 70 miles. 50 miles. His left foot was the only thing in the world that mattered. Press. Hold. Release. Press. Hold. Release. A rhythm. A meditation. A prayer. Da Nang Tower, this is Gunfighter 2-1. Emergency. Declaring emergency. One engine out. Pilot wounded. Request straight-in approach, runway 01. The tower responded immediately. Gunfighter 2-1, cleared straight-in runway 01. Emergency equipment standing by. How bad is the pilot? Ron looked at the blood pooled on the cockpit floor. At Jimmy's ashen face. At his shaking hands. Bad, Ron said simply. Real bad. 20 miles. Jimmy could see the coast of South Vietnam now. Green. Beautiful. Safe. 10 miles. The runway appeared ahead. A strip of gray in the green. Gear down, Jimmy whispered. Hydraulic pressure too low. Gear won't come down. Emergency extension. Ron pulled the emergency gear handle. 3 green lights. Gear down and locked. 5 miles. Flaps. Negative. Hydraulics are gone. We're coming in hot and heavy. Jimmy didn't have the energy to respond. His left foot was cramping so badly he thought the muscle might tear. But he kept pressing. Kept holding. The runway rushed up. Too fast. Too high. You're high, you're high. Ron called. Jimmy nosed down. The Phantom dropped. His left foot made a final correction. Left rudder. Center the nose. The wheels hit hard. Once. Twice. The Phantom bounced. Screeched. Rubber burning. Metal grinding. Jimmy's left foot pressed the brake pedal. Thank God it was on the left side. The Phantom slowed. Slowed. Stopped. Fire trucks screamed toward them. Ambulances. Men running. Jimmy's hand fell away from the stick. His left foot slid off the pedal. We made it, Ron was crying. We made it. You crazy son of a bitch, we made it. But Jimmy didn't hear him. The darkness was already closing in. The hospital ceiling was white. Painfully white. Jimmy stared at it for a long time before he realized he was alive. Sounds filtered in slowly. A heart monitor beeping. Distant voices. Someone crying. The hum of fluorescent lights. He tried to move. Couldn't. Looked down. His right leg ended at the knee. Bandaged. Gone. Easy, Captain. Easy. A nurse appeared in his field of vision. Young. Kind eyes. You've been out for 2 days. You're in the hospital at Da Nang. You're safe. 2 days. He'd lost 2 days. DeLuca. Jimmy's voice was a croak. Sandpaper on concrete. Your WSO is fine. He's been here every day. Wouldn't leave until we told him you'd wake up. Relief flooded through him. Ron was alive. They both made it. Over the next 3 weeks, the story came out in pieces. The doctors said he'd lost almost 4 pints of blood, nearly half his total volume. Another 10 minutes in the air and he would have bled out completely. The shrapnel had severed his femoral artery. Only Ron's belt tourniquet had kept him alive. The flight surgeons were baffled. Flying a crippled F-4 Phantom 190 miles with 1 engine, failing hydraulics, and only 1 functional foot? Impossible. It couldn't be done. But Jimmy had done it. Colonel Briggs visited on the 5th day. Stood beside the bed with his hands clasped behind his back. The Navy's putting you in for the Medal of Honor, Briggs said quietly. Congress will approve it. No doubt. Jimmy looked at the ceiling. I just wanted to bring us home, sir. You did more than that, Captain. You showed every pilot in this squadron what courage looks like. What determination looks like. Briggs paused. The bridge you hit was destroyed. Intelligence confirms it. Supply line is cut. You completed the mission. But at what cost? Jimmy thought, staring at the space where his right leg used to be. Ron DeLuca visited every day. Brought magazines. Told bad jokes. Talked about his baby daughter, Sarah, who was learning to crawl. On the 10th day, Ron broke down. I wanted you to punch out, he sobbed. I thought we were dead. I thought you were crazy. Maybe I was, Jimmy said softly. No. Ron looked up, tears streaming. You saved my life. If we'd ejected, if we'd been captured. He couldn't finish. Didn't need to. They both knew what happened to American pilots in North Vietnamese prisons. "You saved my life," Ron repeated. "I'm going home to see my daughter because of you." 3 months later, Jimmy stood in the White House rose garden, balanced on crutches, his empty pant leg pinned up. President Johnson draped the Medal of Honor around his neck, a light blue ribbon, a bronze star. "The highest honor America could give." The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty." But Jimmy barely heard the words. He was thinking about that morning. The orange-purple sky. The cold aluminum. The feeling of both feet on the rudder pedals before one of them stopped working forever. The newspapers called him a hero. The networks wanted interviews. Senators shook his hand. But late at night, alone in his room at the Walter Reed Medical Center, Jimmy would wake up feeling phantom pain in a leg that no longer existed. He would remember the sound of the canopy shattering. The sight of his own blood. The impossible distance between the mountains of North Vietnam and the runway at Da Nang. 190 miles. He had flown it with one foot. Sarah DeLuca, Ron's daughter, grew up hearing the story. How her father came home from Vietnam because a man named Jimmy Hartwell refused to give up. She became a pilot herself, years later. Flew helicopters in the Gulf War. When reporters asked her why she chose to fly, she always gave the same answer. "Because someone once flew 200 miles on one foot to make sure my father came home to meet me." Jimmy Hartwell retired from the Air Force in 1972 with the rank of lieutenant colonel. He learned to walk with a prosthetic leg. Learned to drive. Learned to live with the nightmares that came every few weeks. The sound of alarms, the feeling of blood soaking through his flight suit, the desperate pressing of a left foot against a rudder pedal while the world spun out of control. He never flew again. Couldn't. Wouldn't. The physical therapy taught him to walk, but nothing could teach him to trust the sky again after it had taken so much from him. But on March 17th every year, the anniversary of that mission, Jimmy would stand in his backyard in Texas and look up at the clouds. And he would remember what it felt like to refuse death, to choose life, to fly broken and bleeding through hostile skies with nothing but willpower and a single foot. Some people asked him if it was worth it. The leg, the pain, the nightmares. Jimmy would think about Ron DeLuca holding his newborn daughter for the first time. About the 200 men who would have been sent to rescue 2 downed pilots if they'd ejected. About the railroad bridge that stayed destroyed for 6 months, saving countless American lives down the supply chain. "Yeah," he'd say quietly. "It was worth it." Because heroism isn't about being unafraid. It's not about being unbreakable. It's about being broken, bleeding, terrified, in agony, and pressing forward anyway. It's about a left foot on a rudder pedal, holding steady through 190 miles of hell. It's about bringing your brother home.